Hello, you're listening to Ending Physician Overwhelm, and I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a physician and a life coach for physicians and other professionals. In this podcast, we look at why, as physicians, we often get stuck in feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, and burnout, and how we can break out of toxic thought patterns. My hope is that each episode gives you an opportunity to heal and get more clear on how you want to show up in your life and your work. And now, let's get started. Hello and welcome everyone to another episode. Today I have another special guest with me, Dr. La Toya Luces-Sampson, also known as Dr. Toya. And she is a wife, a mother, a board certified OBGYN, and a serial entrepreneur now. Yes. She is the founder and CEO of By Default, a curated directory of Black-owned businesses and Black professionals who cater to the Black community. She is also now the CEO of Amina OBGYN Consultants, a locum tenens company offering hospital-based OBGYN services in the state of California. She is passionate about service to her community and patients and uses entrepreneurship to serve them both in her own way and on her own terms. She loves travel, Marvel movies, which I have questions about, and binging primetime TV. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was a mouthful. Oh my gosh.
And I didn't warn you this, but I do want to ask, which Marvel movies top the list for you? The listeners want to know.
I would have to say Black Panther. It just speaks to me on a whole different level. But there's so many. We are like huge Phase 1 fans. And I don't know how much of a fan you are. Do you even know what Phase 1 means?
I would guess that Phase 1 was the early movies, which yes. I actually didn't watch. So I guess I'm a later phase person. Iron Man just didn't do it for me, but that's okay. There's room for all of us.
Yes.
We definitely saw Black Panther, and yes. That's really amazing.
Yeah, there's several of them, but Black Panther's up there. And then just, the last two, just bringing everything together with 20 years is just, I actually just rewatched both of them like last week.
Yeah. Yeah. I have seen all of the Avengers, right. Named movies and do love those. Yeah, so. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Well, I've shared a little bit about your bio, but of course our bio is such a small part of who we are and our story. So I'd love for you to share with the listeners sort of your story and how we got here.
Yeah. So my personal stories, I was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. I came up for undergrad and medical school. I did a 6-year combined program at Howard University. And then I went to residency in Philadelphia. And then I came out here for my first job and then stayed. So I've been in California for the last seven years. Ooh. Yeah, 7 years.
I know the time is passing us by.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's, me in a nutshell and, my medical career in a nutshell as well. But how I got here, it really was, like you mentioned, was the business. It started and ended with the business. I was working with a huge medical corporation at the time, working like about 50 hours a week. I have a son, I have a husband, and then I decided that I wanted to start this business. Why, I don't know. But, it was important to me for my mission and things to have this directory, especially with the climate that we were in, just making sure that my users could really find the products and services they need, the professionals they need that were culturally competent and can relate to them, right? So it was an important thing. So I thought that adding on that work was worth it, right? But, it's still starting a business,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
yeah, I got professional help. I didn't try to do it all on my own. I joined a business school and, had coaching and things like that. And, through my development there, my growth, I should say, I had a lot of mindset shifts and a lot of realizations that made me a better business person, but also made me realize, what am I doing at work, right? The realization of my value. And it was nothing that it caused, like it didn't cause any issues. It just kind of exacerbated underlying problems that were there. It was a pretty toxic environment for me, especially. The office was the bane of my existence for a number of reasons that I'm sure a lot of physicians can relate to. Besides the emails and, the complaints and all of that, my job in particular was chronically understaffed, had a very high turnover. The office manager in my particular office was very bad. So, it was just not a good situation to then add a pandemic on top of, right? Yeah. So everything just kind of started to spiral when I realized, yes, I now have this extra thing that I'm doing, but everything else that I was just dealing with before was kind of unbearable. And, the writing was on the wall. I was like, I need to get out of here. And my husband, thankfully, was on board, but, we had this plan and it was based on finances, which I feel like a lot of physicians make their decisions based on finances, right?
Absolutely.
So, we had this plan. I would work up until X amount of time. Just to be completely transparent, we were going to try for a baby. I was going to stay through that, get my paid maternity leave, and then say deuces, I'm out, right? Yeah. Just like get out. And, having a plan helped for a while because a lot of, people were like, if you just have a plan, you just stick it out for X amount of years or whatever, it'll be okay. And that worked for a while until it didn't, right? Just having a plan was not enough. It was like, I had to step back and say, is this really worth it? Are our finances really in such a state that I can't just leave right this second, right? So it turned out it was not worth it. So, we looked at everything. We had a couple of serendipitous things happen and not so serendipitous things that we worked pretty hard to achieve to make it easier for me to say I'm done. And not just that I'm done, because that was always going to happen, but without a plan immediately, set up, right?
So there's not a paycheck waiting for you. Yeah,
exactly. So, this, whenever it's going to air, I quit in April, right? And it has been like a month and I still have not, had a job, which is fine. And I'm great.
Yeah.
Very happy.
And you're surviving.
Exactly. Right. And
maybe even thriving.
That is the thing, right?
Yeah.
I did not want to just survive. Yeah. Everybody at my job that I left is on survival mode. Nobody is starving. And that is not something that I wanted for myself, right? I felt like I deserved more after all this rigorous school and training and all that. Like I deserved to be happy and I deserved to thrive. So I said, that's it. I gave my notice and I, now can kind of refocus on what's important to me, right? I can get back into the business and then I can really serve my patients the way that I want to, which comes to the second business, which is the Amina OBGYN consultants. I really actually love my job. Like I love being an OBGYN, right? And I love OB and GYN. I'm one of the rare people that likes both, right?
And we need that.
Right. It was the office that was killing me. So I said, okay, I'm only going to do hospital work for now. I probably will never go back to the office, honestly, but it was a way for me to continue to help mothers and, still give all that I was able and qualified to give. And then the part that I was really worried about was the patient education part of it, because that was really important to me. I'm a teacher at heart. That's what I love to do. I love to counsel my patients and things like that. So this is actually the first time that I'm saying it to anybody outside of my family, but I'm also going to start a YouTube channel for patient education as well. So, I was like, all of these lessons that I learned from the business now has enabled me to practice medicine the way that I want to. Like, I don't have to be in an office to educate my patients. I probably can educate more people on YouTube than I can, in the office.
Yeah.
So, and if it wasn't for by default, there was no way. I did not like being on social media. I did not like being on camera. I would not be doing this podcast. None of these things would have been happening, but all of those shifts, all of those changes, the development came through me starting that business. So it was definitely the thing that I needed to do at that time, and is what has gotten me to this point.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much in what you've shared. I think for many people, we go into medicine, with this passion to serve, right? We're going to help all the humans, and then we pick our flavor of human that we're going to help, and what that's going to look like. And we think we'll be happy once we're there. And for various reasons, we struggle with it. And we might have this idea of like, there's something more that I want to do. And what I hear in your story is that you took that, there's something more that I want to do, and decided to do it and create this wonderful business. And even though it's not a medical business,
right,
it is allowing you to think about your medical career in a much more dynamic way. And really, how do I want to serve my patients? How do I want to be living and showing up in my work? Such a powerful lesson to share with us all. So thank you for telling that story.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for giving me the platform to tell it. It's cathartic talking about it.
Yeah.
Because I was really in a not great place before.
Yeah. And, I have my own sort of thoughts about this, but, just speak a little bit, kind of when we as physicians are in a dark place, we're often, exactly, feeling like, oh, we can't share our dreams. We can't share our struggles. We can't share the shame that we feel from not being satisfied with where we are. Can you speak a little bit about, how the business coaching really sort of helped to shift your mindset, and anything else that, had an influence there?
Yeah. So the biggest mindset shift for me was allowing myself to show my true personality outside of the professional really facade that I have to put on every day when I go to work, right? Or when I went to work. Because like most people, I'm layered, dynamic. That's a good word that you use, person. And I had drawn a lot of those things into myself for different reasons. I am a very private person in general, but it was more like, this is not professional, right? Going on social media, that's not professional. And that was the biggest thing for me, because before the business, I actually scrubbed my name from the internet. So I went in, I changed all of my Facebook things, everything that was tagged, I deleted with my real name. I Google searched many times and went several pages down to see what would come up. I was serious. I am erasing. Yes. The only thing you could see was some patient reviews, which is probably terrible because they are terrible reviews. I have like 2 on there. But it was a professional, thing. It was Dr. Luces.
Yeah.
And there was no like social thing, because when I was an undergrad, aging myself here, that's when Facebook was really just getting to
I'm
be
with
what it
you.
is, right? And it was
It was
before.
MySpace and Facebook
Oh yes,
for those of us of
MySpace.
a certain age.
Right. So Facebook, it was only people that were in university at the time.
Mhm.
And I'm a, like I said, a layered person. I had a lot of fun in school, and I love taking pictures. I had tons and tons of pictures online of Carnival. For those who don't know, is a celebration in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, lots of places. In my Carnival costume, so scantily clad, lots
Mhm.
of, all that stuff.
Sequins and glitter
Exactly.
colors.
Right. Things that I'm not ashamed of. It's
Not
just
doctory things.
exactly.
It was
Exactly.
what we're told.
So, I just wanted to, and because of that privacy thing, I don't really want all these people in my business, right? So now Facebook is anybody can join, anybody can see. So it just was many years of me removing myself from a public, having a public profile, and then just being, the physician.
Yeah.
And realizing that I can show all of these sides of me and still be considered professional, still, go to work and have the respect of my patients, and still, be me, and it
Yeah.
not be that, oh, this, you're a doctor, why are you doing this? Like,
Yeah.
most people want to see that we are not just physicians, right? They want to see that we're human, and they usually like you more for it. So that was the biggest shift for me. And that was the thing that allowed me to see more of the possibilities. And then the next one, which was even bigger, was really acknowledging my worth as a physician,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's probably the issue for most people, is that it's just something we believe, it's something that we are taught,
Yes.
is that, we can be replaced, that we're not valuable.
Yeah.
You can just
Your
hire
time
somebody
is not
else.
important.
No,
You will stay late.
yep, you will give us all this free work, you will do this charting overnight, whenever, you'll answer these emails within 48 hours, no matter what. you know you will do this unpaid, like all of those things. I started realizing, well, no, this is not actually true. And again, coming out of a medical environment, I was kind of surprised at how much respect me being a physician still garnered. I kind of forgot. It's like
Mm,
all of our friends are doctors, like everybody's a doctor, right? So
no big
sometimes you
deal.
forget, exactly, right? It's not a big deal.
We all went to school for a million years.
Exactly. But it's a big deal to a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? And it's not that it was that I needed an ego boost or anything like that. It was acknowledging the worth and the significance that we bring to these big organizations
Yeah.
that treat us like a number, right? They're only concerned about the bottom line, and a bottom line that would not exist without us, right? Right. So, just that realization that I am valuable, my skills, not everybody can do what I do,
Mhm.
right? So if that is the case, why am I allowing myself to continue to be abused by this organization that obviously does not care about me?
Yeah.
Right. So, that realization is what really gave me the strength to say, I'm done.
Yeah. And I want to go back to the first point, that idea of erasing sort of the evidence of you
Yeah.
in order to appear to be, kind of the professional, the put
Mhm.
together, the very serious physician, and the impact that has on us, as human beings,
Yeah.
right? Where we feel like we've erased ourselves and the things that we like and the things that are
Yeah.
us and authentic. And, and then, yeah, how do we show up in our day when
Yeah.
we've sort of erased ourselves in that way? Yeah, I love that you brought that up. And then thinking too about if I'm not choosing to appreciate my own value, if I'm choosing to just kind of accept things as they are, and and just kind of stay in this mindset, right, that my time is not valuable, that my skills are no more valuable than anybody else's. How that kind of works on us, in terms of thinking about burnout, right? It's that kind of, this thing is happening to me. This career is happening to me, instead of, choosing to make your own decisions, choosing to, convey your value to others. Yeah. And I think I would imagine that keeps many of us stuck, right? That keeps many of us, not that an employed position is necessarily bad, but it keeps us thinking that we could only be in an employed position. That, I can't go out and, have my own business. I can't go out and be a private practice or, any of these other opportunities, because I would have to be a human being, because I would have to own my value, because I would have to, put a price tag on it.
That's a big one.
Things.
Because they would like us to believe that we shouldn't be paid for what we do, right? But somebody's getting paid.
Somebody's getting paid, for sure.
But for some reason, if it's us, then it's a problem. But the money is coming from somewhere, and it's
money
going
comes from somewhere.
So
and the marketing happens. I think for so many of us, we have this idea, well, I'm employed and I don't do any marketing. The marketing is being done. We are being sold. We just may not be doing it ourselves in that position. But medicine is a business.
That is correct.
Sometimes for profit, sometimes not for profit. But we can wrap our brains around that idea, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And something else I felt too that, kind of came up when I was going through this is the feeling that I'm too young to be burnt out. Right? Because even though I feel
you haven't earned it yet.
I feel old, but I'm not. I actually quite young to be where I am because of that 6-year program that I did. So it was this guilt that, well, there are people, there are people who are doing this for 20 years and they're fine. Why are you already feeling this way? How can you waste all your skills and, all these things, and then people need you. So if you leave, then who's going to take care of these patients and all of that? So also tackling that, and then, owning that them finding staff is not my issue. Because if they wanted to keep people, they would make changes. So they must not care about that. So I can't care more than they do. Right. And I can only serve as much as I can in my capacity. So it's something that, I just had to work through.
And of course, those people who have been practicing for 20 years and seem to be fine are sometimes themselves, in quite deep pain. And we may or may not find that out until later, because we don't talk about it.
That's the thing.
We stay in our little shame bubble, and shame is a strong disconnector.
And they also have a different generation as well. So it's just kind of acceptance. Different things that we may not necessarily, tolerate.
And I think about the women who, came far before us, those who are now probably retired, in their 60s, 70s. And many of them I interpreted as tough as nails, very, very sort of strict and almost mean seeming, when we were on the wards and working with them. And I think they probably had to be that way, in particular women. If we throw race in there, they had to be a certain high level of professional appearance. And this projection of no one messes with me. because if there was any sort of appearance of weakness, off they would go. What do you think about that?
I mean, I am 100% sure that was happening. And I'm glad you brought up the race part, because that still happens to us. And that's part of the erasure as well, right? Is because I need to appear this certain way for respect, to be taken seriously. And it goes both ways, because I've dealt with this more than anything else because of my personality. The assumption of unfriendliness, because I am quiet and private in work, right? And that separation of work and personal, that's part of the erasure that I did, but just part of my personality, right? I'm at work, we are working, we are taking care of patients. This is not social hour. That's how I have always been, right? But as a Black woman physician, and a young one at that, that was not always received very well. It's interpreted as everything you just described, whether, that was actually the case or not. I can be not upset about anything, and then I hear that I was in a bad mood. I was like, oh, well, that's news to me, So I can't imagine what they would have had to endure in that time, dealing with the added problem of the misogyny and all of that. Not that it's gone completely anyway, but right. But I really can't imagine those women, what they had to go through.
Yeah. And it's, it's sort of that damned if you do, damned if you don't. On the other hand, if you were very friendly and, in on the office chit chat and, sharing that, well, then you're unprofessional.
Yeah.
And
you get yourself in trouble. So people get familiar, and then there's lines that are blurred, and, when it comes back to the clinical side of it, things can get messy and all of that. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. And certainly not gone. I think about the ways in which women in many professions, not just in medicine, but women who speak up or speak very directly or, are unhappy.
Yeah.
Often get labeled as toxic. When, there are so many factors going into that don't get looked at. It's easier to label than it is to, dare to tackle the problem on the systems level.
Right. And, I this is a lesson that I constantly have to teach myself. And even in my patient interactions is giving grace, because you never know what's really going on.
So true.
Because they can be a day where somebody said I was upset. There could have been a million things going on. That the day that patient cursed you out, there could have been a million things going on.
Yeah.
Right. And it, I hope it goes back to us as well, where when patients complain about interactions, that they consider that there could have been a million things going on with your physician, because there are a lot of physicians that are burnt out right now. People telling them, you have to, hurry up, you have to see these amount of patients, you have to do this, you have to do that. And
we still run out of toilet paper and have flat tires and
right. And all the regular human things that happen. Exactly. Right. Hopefully physicians can get that kind of grace as well. Because we are human, just like everybody else. And we have the added stress of, being a physician.
Yeah. Well, if you wouldn't mind, speak a little bit about, kind of how you got started, with this company curating products from Black people and sort of really wanting to elevate that.
Yeah. So I know
just a tiny question.
No, the long story or the or the short story. Okay. So it actually the behind it was when I was like 2019-ish, I was looking for like hair products. That's, it's a thing for Black women, these hair products.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't really find what I was looking for. And, the things that were available, I feel like weren't really for me. And this memory kept coming back to me. When I first came to the United States as a visitor, I was like 10 and I was visiting my uncle, and I was just in his apartment and I saw a bottle of shampoo that said for normal hair. And I just remember being very confused.
What is
because
normal hair?
What does that mean? And, for those who don't know, Trinidad, most people are brown, right? So either our population is East Indian or of African descent, one of those two. So I was used to seeing people that were like me all the time. So I was genuinely confused by what that meant. But I was 10. I forgot about it. I moved on, but the feeling of confusion always stayed with me.
Yeah.
And that memory always stayed with me. And it kind of came back when I was looking for those things. It's just like, it's very obvious that these mainstream products are not made for me, right? So I wanted to find things from Black owned businesses because I knew, well, they are catering to me because they get it, right? But the finding them was the problem. At the time, Instagram and all these things were not what they are right now. So you had to like read blogs, you had to watch YouTube videos, and blame it on the day job, but I do not like all of these stories beforehand. I'm like, just tell me, give me bullet points, what I have to do.
Like the recipe with, 14 pages to scroll through. They're just muffins.
Thank you. Just give me the Cliff Notes, please. So I was like, you know what? I should make just this directory, this collection of places where I can find stuff. But I thought about it because, physicians don't start businesses. I don't have time for that. And then in 2020, when I had my son, middle of the pandemic, my hair started to fall out. So it was imperative that I find something. And I had, the idea again. And it's just like a lot of people who started businesses during the pandemic, I was just like, why not? Because life is short and you never know what's going to happen. So I'm just going to do this. And that's how I, decided that I was going to start the business. And I really wanted to focus on products and services that are really very obviously for Black people, right? And proudly Black owned, because it's more than just the directory, it's the platform. Like I want the users when they come to feel special. I want you to feel catered to. It's a different feeling when I say, I made this for you, specifically for you. I thought about you and I made this, right? So it's not like people ask me why don't you add like toilet paper on there that's Black owned? Well, that's great. That's not really what the directory is about, right? Unless it says, Black is beautiful on it, maybe not, because I want to invoke a certain kind of feeling. And there are lots of directories now. That's another thing that happened. When I first had the idea, there was not a thing. Yeah. Now there are tons, right? So I feel that I'm okay to be picky and to stick to my mission because it's what makes me feel good inside, right? Like when I find these businesses and the imagery, the marketing, you can just tell that somebody was thinking about me when they made this, and there's no question. It hits you differently. And that's the feeling that I wanted to evoke from, the website. And then on the flip side, I wanted to make sure I had the professional services part of it. So a directory of Black lawyers, Black doctors, Black accountants, because the importance of that doesn't even need to be, explained. There are studies showing that culturally competent care or congruent care, is leads to better outcomes. People want to find doctors that look like them. They want to have lawyers that look like them. Like when I was starting the business, I needed to find an attorney, and it's just easier to explain like to somebody who I don't have to explain a lot to, right? And without the worry that, oh, how are they going to take this? Are they going to think, like, what are they going to think? You know, so just not having to deal with that. I really wanted to make sure I had that included as well. And it makes it kind of like two separate directories almost, because I don't put those restrictions on the professional services because I want you to just be able to find somebody, right? Whereas the businesses is, you know, they have to be, you know, specifically for Black people and all of that stuff. So it's like two separate things, but one platform. And, you know, I realized only a couple months ago that it should have been a nonprofit in the beginning, just because it's more aligned with my mission. Like I don't want, like it was never about the money. It was always about, you know, providing a service. Again, I can't help but serve. That's what we do.
That's what we
right?
do.
That's what we do. So I'm also like in the process of figuring out how to change and go in that direction, because I really do want it to be like a resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that it also, you know, it was the way that you were able to sort of come back to you, you know, and kind of looking at it, you know, like it's you all over it in the best way. And you've got, you know, shows on there and, you know, information and content for people, you know, in such an inclusive way. And so that idea of getting to own yourself again through this business. Yeah.
And I definitely show parts of my personality that most people don't know. And there's still, you know,
there's still probably some private parts.
Exactly. still private parts.
Yeah.
You know, like even my name, even having my name out there. It's funny when you ask me how to introduce me. I chuckled to myself because up until very recently, I still did not want Luces out in the open because I am Dr. Luces, right?
Yeah.
Everything else, I was using either just Dr. Toya, or I would put La Toya Luces-Sampson because Dr. Luces doesn't do social media, right? She sees patients and
she sees patients and she's very serious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And when I tell you recent, right? So it's a work in progress. But you know, I had to realize that this is me and I have to show all of me. And if you Google hard enough, you're going to figure out who I am. So it really doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. I think that's really important because, you know, like I said, I think so many of us have been, you know, just really conditioned to hide ourselves in all different ways, right? So we hide our personality, certainly, you know, hiding certain images from people in various ways that, you know, on Facebook, there was the issue a few years ago of, I think it was a female resident who had posted a picture of herself in a bikini, and it became a whole big thing of like, oh, how could a doctor do that? You know,
oh my gosh, I have lots of pictures of myself.
You know, we are human beings. We have human bodies.
Right.
You know, like, let's not pretend that we don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But certainly an issue for many people that, you know, they haven't even considered it yet. So I think that's really important to share. So thank you. So I'm curious, and I ask all my guests this, you know, for somebody who may be listening, and they're out there and they're a physician or another healthcare professional and they're feeling burned out or overwhelmed, what do you want them to know?
Yeah. So, you know, specifically for the physicians, because I feel very strongly about this, is that whatever you have to do to realize your worth, do that, because we are very valuable. We have a very valuable set of skills that you trained very hard for, right? So it seems simple, but if you really don't acknowledge, and not just acknowledge, but believe it, you will continue to allow yourself to stay in the situation that you're in, right? You are valuable. The pandemic got us to a place where many of us never thought we would be, where we were getting fired. I really thought I had 100% job security at all times, right? But these medical corporations cannot continue in this way, right? They can mass fire, they can replace us with anybody else and all of that. The pendulum will swing. You will always be valuable. And once you can own that and really believe it deep down in there, it will give you the strength that you need to make changes to get yourself out of the situation that you're in. And one thing I wanted to make sure I mention is that I don't want anyone to hear it and the first thing to think of is, well, I have a lot of loans, I can't, right? Because that's a big, the finances is a big part of it. So I want to acknowledge that is a big part of it, and why a lot of people are in the situations that they're in, even if they do realize their worth, right? But I still feel like if you're at that place where you really understand that you don't need to continue to take the abuse, and it may not even be that your system is bad like mine was, but we live in a capitalist society, it's not going to be great anywhere, right? So even if your boss is great and, it's just coming from way above, it's still a system that none of us can really thrive in. And we all deserve to thrive. So there are choices. They may be difficult choices, but there are choices that we can make to financially make ourselves in a better position to be able to make bold moves. You may not be able to quit without a job lined up. Yeah. I acknowledge that I am very blessed that I was able to do that. Yeah. And it's not necessarily something that many people can do, but I don't want anyone listening to feel like my story is not relatable. Like it can apply to me because of XYZ, right? We can make tough choices, make sacrifices to financially get to a place where you can get yourself out from under that boot on your neck of corporate medicine. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Because
I was just going to say, when we don't value ourselves, nothing external can give that value to us. Right. The cushiest job in the world can't convince us that we're worthwhile if we don't believe it ourselves, that we don't have that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that to me, once you get that, there's no stopping any of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then you can really recognize the power of choice and going to work, waking up and going to work every day is a choice.
Yeah.
And it's not one that we tend to think is a choice because we already decided long ago we are someone who wakes up and goes to work.
Exactly.
But that is a choice. And when you recognize that, there's power there.
Just there is a lot of power.
Owning your story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show. Please tell my listeners where they can find you.
Yeah. So I am everywhere. You can find By Default at BUYDEFAULT.com. That's bydefault.com. We have a separate Instagram for that. That's BUY_DEFAULT. And then my personal Instagram is Dr. Toya MD, and I'm on TikTok as well. I am not on Twitter. I can't.
There's so many
too many things. And I'm also just got into LinkedIn as well. And it's my entire name is actually out there. So La Toya Luces-Sampson. That's the only place.
We're being bold. We're embracing our names. Yeah. Yes. And I'll have links to all of that in the show notes so that people can find you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. La Toya Luces-Sampson.
Thank you so
It's
much
a
for
pleasure to
having
get
me.
to know you. And I'm really excited to see what comes next for you.
Yes, I am excited as well. And stay tuned. I don't know, I may decide to do more things. I have all this time now. So
Yeah, the sky's the limit. And you've done the hard work of getting past the putting yourself out there. So
yeah, yeah.
all right, listeners, until next time, have a great rest of your day. Bye. Thank you for listening to Ending Physician Overwhelm. If you've learned something today or felt moved, please share this episode with a colleague and be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode yourself. If you'd like to know more about me and my coaching practice, you can find more information at www.healthierforgood.com. Until next time, take care.